Tonight is the tale of an aspiring actress who, instead of faking it till she makes it, she makes sacrifices. She babysits rich people's kids in the most dangerous era to babysit. My name is Damien, and tonight I ruin 1982's Trick or Treats.
You're crazy. You're crazy, Bert. I'm mad.
And just like that, I'm back. Alright, this film is directed by Gary Graber, who in the early 90s would go on to make a bunch of porn movies. Which is why this movie will probably have a familiar feel to you. The opening scene, it starts right up. Malcolm is having breakfast with his wife, unaware that she has called the men in the white coats on him. And they show up out by the pool one morning before work while he's reading his paper. So he tries to escape. We have this ridiculous fight scene. Ridiculous. Like at one point he climbed up a tree and then they eventually got him. Which is like, why bother prolonging the inevitable? They know where you live. They know your information. They're gonna get you, and now you really look crazy. So they take him away, and it's not really stated why his wife, Joan, called the guys in the white coats, whatever you call them, the crazy catchers. But you can tell by the smirk on her face as they're taking her away, or taking him away, that she's kind of a gold digger, you know. She's not a good person. She just wants the house to herself. So fast forward 4 years and we meet Linda, the aspiring actress who has a babysitting gig this Halloween night. And it happens to be Joan and Malcolm's son needs a babysitter. So she heads over to their house and Malcolm's locked up. And she is now seeing David Carradine, who stars in this movie, back when he was alive. Say other people do that? Back when he was alive, he did that. Like, yeah, no shit. That's how that works. You don't really do a whole lot when you're dead. After you're dead, unless you're Tupac. So she goes over there, meets David Carradine, who's kind of like now, David Carradine's kind of a gold digger too. So now he's digging the gold digger's gold. But they're going out for a party on Halloween night. So Joan's obviously not the greatest mom because her son is, I don't know, it's 9, maybe 10. So next we get to the mental ward to catch up with old Malcolm, who's still locked up and he's still pissed off about it. But he's got a plan. It's Halloween. He's going to make a run for it. He figures he can get a disguise. I don't know what he was planning, because he's like, I'm gonna get a disguise and get out of here. Like, what do you? There's not a Halloween store in the mental institute. So what was he gonna do? But he gets lucky because that night the nurse is checking on him at lights out. She comes in and he goes to attack her, and she just happens to be wearing a wig, and she's about the same size as him, in like same height, girth. It basically was him in a wig already, but now he's really in a wig, and he escapes. He goes out the front. He's got her keys. He hops in a car and he starts driving. I wonder if he knew, like, if you got locked up like 4 years later, would you know where you were? I mean, you'd know you're in the mental ward, but like, if you were gonna drive somewhere, I mean, now you have GPS, but back then it'd be like, because it's like 1982, you get in the car and be like, okay, I'm gonna go home. It's like, I don't know where my house is because I'm not really sure where I am at this point. But he didn't have any problems with it. He just got in the car and drove. He's a man on a mission. So it's not until after, it's kind of weird, it's not until after Richard and Joan leave that Linda even meets the kid. And the kid's kind of this ugly, fat little piece of shit prankster loser guy who's just annoying. There's a big thing with annoying fat kids in the 80s. Vern from Stand By Me was cool, but all the rest of them sucked. So he runs around like constantly faking his death. He's constantly falling down the stairs or laying in the pool like he drowned and all this other stuff. And she falls for it every time. Even though it's like after a while you think she would ignore it and be like, F this kid. And for some reason she changes in, as it gets later, she changes into one of Joan's nightgowns, which is like, why? I don't know if she's planning to stay the whole night. She had like a nurse costume on when she got there, but it's like, why are you just putting on somebody's pajamas? It's weird. So Malcolm's still driving around and he comes across a payphone. Payphone is a thing that we used to have that they were spread out around randomly. So like if something happened, you could walk to a payphone and call somebody, because there was a time where we didn't all have a personal phone on us at all times, but now we do, and payphones have kind of disappeared. So poor Superman. So he goes to a payphone and he calls the house because he still remembers the number. And this is back when you had to know the number. You had to remember it. You couldn't just, or you had to have it written down somewhere, but I doubt he had it written down somewhere. He actually remembered it and he knows where he's going. So good job, Malcolm. So he calls, she answers, he hangs up, he keeps driving. Then he calls again, hangs up, and then he's cruising around. He runs into these hobos, so first he goes to the diner and steals a butcher knife. Then he finds these hobos and gets one of them's clothes, so he's not dressed like a woman anymore. He was getting hit on quite a bit though, walking the streets of LA dressed as a woman, like a really ugly woman, because he wasn't like an attractive man to begin with. So he gets clothes and then he heads home, and he gets to the house and just kind of walks right in. Nothing like a crazy ex wandering around, and he sneaks around. They don't know he's there, of course. And there's a girl that stopped by who I didn't mention. It's one of Linda's friends, because she has something for Linda, and she's in there and he finds her like in the basement. Now I don't know, I think that's kind of weird to be like, it's one thing if you go to your friend's house and you're not sure if they're home and they're not answering, so you check the door and it's open, so you walk in but you know them. But to be like, oh, you're babysitting at this address, okay, and then you stop by and you're like, I'm just gonna walk in and find you because I know you're in there. It's kind of ballsy move. I wouldn't do that. I would just leave. So Malcolm finds her and he kills her and stuffs her in a closet. And this is the first kill of the movie, and we're at like the hour and 11 mark, and we're finally getting a kill. And then I'm just gonna jump way ahead. Not way ahead, because there's only like 20 minutes of the movie at this point. So this is where the spoilers are in. He goes and he gets them eventually trapped in a room. They figure out he's in there, and her and the boy, his son, are trapped in the room, and there's two doors. So he tries one door and he can't open it. It's locked. So he goes around to the other door, and the kid has like a human guillotine, like wooden with a blade that's like supposedly wasn't real, but it is real. He has a real guillotine in his room. And so Dad comes busting through the back door into the room, and Linda somehow like hoists him into it, and the blade comes down, just cuts like into his neck, like almost all the way, and he dies. And it's over. And then she goes into the living room, sits on the couch, and she calls the cops. And then the little boy, Christopher, finds his dad's butcher knife. He comes walking out, and he stabs her, and that's the freeze frame, credits roll, the end. And at first I was like, why did he become a killer? But then I started thinking about it a little bit, and it makes sense for him to become a killer. I mean, his parents sucked. One of them was taken away when he was probably like 6. He probably didn't know where the hell he went. His mom obviously probably had guys coming in and out of the house all the time. Probably never saw her. She'd bailing on him for Halloween. Dad finally does come home. He doesn't even say, "Hi, son." He's just like, "I'm going to kill that lady I think's your mom," because he recognized the nightgown. But yeah, that must be her. I recognize that nightgown because she's been wearing the same nightgown for at least 4 years. So, I don't know. It kind of had a horror feel to it, but at the same time, it didn't. And there weren't the deaths. I mean, there's one girl who didn't matter. And then the killer. So I don't even know if you count that. It's like, if the killer dies in a movie, that doesn't really count as a death because he's supposed to die. And usually the killer comes back. And then Linda may or may not have died. Freeze framed off screen. So it's like, that's not, I mean, that's a horror movie technically, but it wasn't scary. It was just dark, had kind of creepy buildups. But I mean, at one point, Christopher did throw a cat at Linda to scare her for that famous, you know, that cat. The cat screams for no reason, like cats do in real life. Yeah, that sort of thing. This film basically just kind of cashed in on the whole Halloween babysitter thing. And that's about it. They're like, I can make a babysitting Halloween movie too and make lots of money. I mean, it was filmed in Joan, the lady that played Joan, it was filmed in her house. Christopher, I think, is the director's son. So it was just, I don't know, it's a cash grab. And it worked. I don't know. So that's episode 3. The rest of the movies this month will be Halloween movies, not like Michael Myers per se, but movies that take place on Halloween. So I will see you guys next time.
If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. Visit Damien Ruins Horror Movies on Facebook, where you can stay up to date on new written reviews. Also, you can find the entire written review catalog at DamienRuinsHorrorMovies.com.